You ever have a day start with sunshine and end with a police cruiser at your front gate because someone decided your property was suddenly theirs? That was the Tuesday I got back to my ranch, and the day HOA Karen learned the hard way that messing with the wrong man can cost you everything. Let's rewind. I'd been gone 6 months. Not for vacation, not because I was escaping anything, just work. The kind of work that keeps you flying between cities, giving testimony, reviewing policy drafts, holding people accountable. I work in Washington, D.C., at the National HOA Oversight Committee. Yes, that's a real thing. And yes, I'm the director. I've spent over a decade drafting federal guidelines for homeowners associations, investigating rogue boards, and making sure communities aren't being turned into privatized dictatorships. Which is why, when I finally made it back to my ranch, a secluded, 50-acre stretch of desert land just outside Tucson, I was dreaming of nothing but silence. Horses. Dusty boots. A little bourbon on the porch and maybe the coyotes singing in the distance. Instead, I found Deborah. Blonde. Perfect posture. Standing right in front of my locked front gate with her arms crossed, wearing a blazer and heels like she just stepped out of a courtroom drama. Except this wasn't TV. And this wasn't her land. I slowed the truck and rolled down the window. Morning. You lost? She gave me a look like I just asked her to clean a stable. This is private property. Meadowbrook Ranch HOA jurisdiction. You'll need to turn around. I blinked. You're standing on my driveway. She didn't flinch. Just lifted a clipboard. You're not registered as a member of the community. This parcel was incorporated into Meadowbrook Ranch Estates via board vote in July of last year. You're trespassing. It took me a second. I stared at her, half wondering if this was some kind of prank. But then I remembered that name. Meadowbrook. I knew it from a review case last year. They'd been one of the worst offenders for aggressive enforcement. Fining residents for garage door colors. Sending threats over backyard barbecue smoke. And their president? Deborah Kennings. She didn't recognize me. Not in jeans and boots and a truck covered in dust. But I recognized her. Ma'am, I said, I bought this property 6 years ago. It's not part of Meadowbrook. It's unincorporated land, never belonged to an HOA, never will. You can't just absorb it by vote. Her lips curled. Well, it was absorbed. I suggest you leave before I call the sheriff. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was so absurd that I wasn't sure she was serious. Then she pulled out her phone and dialed. 911. Yes, I'm the HOA president here. There's an unknown male on private property. He's being aggressive. I'm concerned he may be armed. I hadn't even gotten out of the truck. She was fabricating a threat, in real time. Because she couldn't control me. I stepped out slowly, hands visible, phone in one, wallet in the other. I stood by the hood and said nothing. Let her dig her hole. The sheriff deputies arrived about 12 minutes later. 2 cruisers. Flashing lights. Middle-aged, calm professionals. They didn't come out with hands on weapons, thankfully. One of them approached me cautiously. I introduced myself, handed over my ID, the deed, zoning documents, tax records, and my federal credentials. I let the badge speak. Meanwhile, Deborah launched into a full monologue about emergency bylaws, annexation rights, and hostile individuals refusing to comply with community rules. The deputy glanced at her, then turned back to me. Mind if I take this back to the cruiser, sir? Please, I said. 10 minutes of silence. Then they both returned. Mr. Carson, the lead deputy said. This property is clearly yours. County records match your documents. There's no HOA affiliation. I nodded. Appreciate it. He turned to Deborah. Ma'am, you can't file police reports for false claims. This land isn't under your jurisdiction. Never was. And the county zoning office confirms there's been no approved annexation here. Her mouth opened and closed like she was catching flies. But the board voted, we posted notices, we updated our boundary signs. The second deputy stepped forward. Not how it works. You need official approval and consent from the landowner. Without that, it's a violation of state code. She looked like she was about to argue again. But I wasn't done. I handed the deputy one more card. It had my full title. He read it. His eyebrows lifted. Wait, he said. You oversee all HOA enforcement? Nationally, I said. And Meadowbrook's been under preliminary review for 14 months. Deborah here just gave us enough to file for formal investigation. Deborah went pale. Investigation? For what? I've done nothing wrong. I turned to her calmly. Ma'am, you just attempted to enforce false jurisdiction over federally protected private property. You issued verbal threats, made a fraudulent police report, and claimed authority you don't possess. That's zoning fraud, harassment, and a breach of at least 5 articles in the HOA Accountability Act. She started to tremble. I didn't. I was just following our charter. There is no legal charter for coercive annexation. But you're done, Deborah. The deputies asked her to step aside. They didn't arrest her, not yet, but they took her statement, wrote a report, and left. I stood in the dust, the sun finally warming my back, and stared down at the clipboard she dropped during the commotion. Printed fines. Cease and desist letters. A fake map of new HOA borders, drawn in red pen. It was more than overreach. It was an attempt to steal land. By that evening, I'd filed an internal petition for emergency audit. Our team flew in from BC within 48 hours. We pulled Meadowbrook's entire documentation, board minutes, meeting notes, emails. What we found was damning. They had sent compliance officers, which turned out to be volunteers in polos, onto properties with no legal jurisdiction. Issued thousands in illegal fines. Threatened elderly homeowners. Harassed veterans. One woman's dog had been seized by HOA Animal Patrol and sold to another family. It was a culture of fear dressed up as community standards. But it didn't stop there. We discovered Deborah had pressured local real estate agents to only show Meadowbrook homes to certain types of buyers, people she called aesthetically cooperative. There were notes, recordings, even one email to a broker saying, "We need fewer pickup trucks and more audits." The scope of the power trip was staggering. And the people? Powerless. Until now. By the end of the month, I'd personally chaired the hearing. Deborah was present. She tried to talk. Made claims about community beautification and enforcing order. I let her talk for 6 minutes. Then I played a recording of her 911 call. The room went silent. She resigned on the spot. The HOA was dissolved within a week. Assets frozen. A restitution fund established. Deborah was banned from holding any official position in any residential organization for life. And then came the lawsuits. 3 homeowners filed for damages. One elderly couple sued for mental distress after being told they'd be evicted for non-compliant fence color. A local rancher named Pete, Vietnam vet, cancer survivor, and quiet as a chapel, told us Deborah's officers trespassed onto his property while he was undergoing chemo. They fined him for grass overgrowth and nailed a warning sign to his barn. We helped him sue for $140,000. He won every cent. Another homeowner, single mom, 3 kids, was fined over $9,000 for having a trampoline in her yard. She lost her job trying to keep up with payment plans. Her case went public. A pro bono legal firm stepped in. They cleared her name, restored her credit, and helped her move out of Meadowbrook with full compensation. As for Deborah? Turns out she'd used HOA funds to pay for spa treatments, wardrobe purchases, and 2 luxury strategy retreats at a 5-star resort. She claimed they were board development seminars. The FBI got involved. The audit trail didn't lie. Wire fraud. Misappropriation. Racketeering under state code. She was indicted 6 months later. I didn't need to gloat. The law did that for me. And me? I didn't sue. Didn't need to. I had something better. My porch. My land. The desert stretching in all directions, silent and honest. The next morning, I saddled up my horse and rode the fence line. Sun rising. Birds in the distance. My dogs running just ahead. I passed the gate where Deborah once stood, now empty. No more fake signs. No more clipboards. Just a simple wooden post and a plaque I'd added the night before. It read, "Private property, not subject to any HOA. By order of the United States." I smiled. Some people wear power like a crown. Others weaponize it. But when you truly understand power, legal, ethical, real power, you don't need to yell. You just wait for the yellers to trip on their own lies. And then you quietly, decisively, shut the whole thing down.